Hold up, I am on my way, I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean. Yeah, let's go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie. Today I have a spring crafting marathon for you today with 15 of the new spring DIYs that I've made this year on my channel in 2025, all using supplies from the Dollar Tree. Enjoy! We're going to take 3 wood crates from the Dollar Tree. It can really be any of the rectangular ones like that. And then 2 of the Dollar Tree easels. Now, this is how they used to come, but this is how they are coming now. So, like at my store, I found these like on the bottom shelf. They're all taken apart like this, and they have a chain with them now as well. So know that they might look like that at your Dollar Tree. Now, I was challenging myself. I have made a really cute porch swing with these easels from the Dollar Tree, and I was thinking there must be something else I could make for these for spring, and let me show you what I came up with. The first thing I'm going to do is just remove the stand from it. I don't really need that on there, but I do want the structure to stay in place, so I just took that piece of wood off. We will use that later on in the DIY, and I screwed this back on. Now, without that in there, though, I felt like my screw was a little too long sticking out of the back. You could leave it on there like that, but I thought it was a little distracting. So what I'm going to do is just remove the screw and the wing nut, and I'm just going to use hot glue to glue those at the top. It doesn't have to be super strong. I do the same thing there with the other ones, just removing the extra piece of wood and removing the screw. I'm just going to use hot glue to attach them together. And what I want to do is take 2 of these and make a ladder plant stand that I can fill with some faux florals for spring, and I love how this turned out. It's the perfect shape for this. That there's already the ledge there on the bottom, and so that will be able to hold a box of flowers down there, and then I also want a box of flowers at the top. So I can use that extra piece of wood for the top. And basically I want ledges to be able to sit the flower boxes on. So I just used hot glue to glue both of those together. I do want a stain, but I want a very light stain for spring. I don't want it to be too dark. So I mix mostly water with some antique wax by Waverly, and we're going to stain everything. The wooden easels, the little wooden crate boxes, everything that we're going to be using here, and just letting that soak in a little bit, but wiping off the excess. It looks darker now than it actually ends up. It is a very light stain, but I did want to stain it so that I could get a lot more of that wood grain to come through. Now, this little part of the easel is already attached with like little nails in there, so it's pretty sturdy. I'm guessing on the new ones, I haven't taken them out of the package yet. You'd probably have to be able to screw those on. And the ladder stand that I'm making for this, like the ladder planter stand, you could use shelves in it, and that would be really cute as well. You could add shelves with little flower pots, but what I'm going to do is just add the wood boxes directly and make them into flower boxes, just to save a step. But know that you definitely could make this project with shelves if you wanted to. So I just go over the front and the back of all of these, and I love crafting with these little easels. I was trying to decide if I should make like a swing set or something like that, but I've already done a porch swing, so I wanted to mix it up a little bit and do something a little bit more different. Now, these were the extra pieces of wood. I went ahead and stained them as well because I can use them for the shelves for the top. Now, the little wood crates, I just made sure to get 3 all the same. They have many varieties of these. Some of them have open slats on the bottom. Some of them have open slats on the sides. It doesn't really matter as long as you get 3 that are all the same size. And this one doesn't really have the openings, but it does have the slats. Still super cute. I went ahead and stained everything just because it was a little bit like a wash, so it's just easier just to go ahead and stain everything inside and outside of our little wood flower boxes. And again, just kind of drying that off with a dry paper towel. I don't want to take too much of the stain off, but as you can see, a very light stain. And one thing about staining or painting the different kinds of wood like this from the Dollar Tree, it's going to give you a more consistent finish in the end than if you would have left them all just the raw wood colors that they were, because they can vary slightly. So I'm going to do that with all 3 of my boxes. What I was thinking is I can do one box for the top shelf and then I can do two together, making a longer flower box for the bottom because I'm going to have more room down there. So I just finished up staining this last one. It's really easy to do. Just kind of go all over. Try not to forget any surfaces. And as you can see, that stain is just very liquid. You can almost pour it right off. Now, this is what I was thinking. One of these will be the front, one will be the back. I'll have 2 rows like this that I can suspend this through, but I'm going to need to make shelf for the top bin because the one on the bottom is already there. You're going to want to cut your wood to size. You're going to want it about the same width as one of the little bins. And I just kind of marked off where I want to be able to attach this just so I can remember. And instead of using a saw, I'm just going to use my miter scissors to cut these down. They're not too big. I think I should be able to cut them with this. And then I'm going to use that as a reference here to cut off the second one. Now I'm just going to attach these to the wood easel with hot glue. If you wanted to go in with some tinier nails on the other side, it would make it even stronger like the bottom shelf, but I think with faux flowers and foam in this, it's not going to need to be super durable. So what I did was just mark that on the other little A-frame so I would know exactly where to attach these, and I just put hot glue here on each side and add my little wood shelves. So I was thinking that the flower boxes would rest on these. And let me show you how I ended up putting it all together. So I have that glued to both of them. And I want it to be like that. So I want to kind of sandwich the little bends in. Now you're going to want to add a little bit of flexibility. What I did was I hot glued mine to the A-frame here and to the shelf. You really only need to do it on the shelf because I noticed you did need a little bit of flexibility when I went to put this all together. So I don't know how much it really stuck to the back. The shelf is the most important part. Now for the bottom one, I want it to be a long flower tray. So I took both of them and glued them together end to end like this with some hot glue before I added it to the shelf. This little easel shelf does have a little bit of a ridge on it, so make sure you're making good contact when you glue this on. And again, I glued this one to the frame, but you don't really need to. As long as you get it on that shelf, it should be good to go. And now we can attach the front of our little plant ladder. Super cute. I was making sure it was going to fit. That's when I realized I probably shouldn't have glued it to the back because I did need a little bit of flexibility, but we're going to make it work. I add hot glue here to both of these little ridges here that are going to be used to hold the flower boxes and attach this, gluing that to the little wood crates like that. It's really cute. I love this design. It looks just like a bigger ladder plant stand that you would buy, and it's kind of a miniature version that you can use for decor. You can really use this indoor or outdoor as well. That is what it looks like so far. Now let's fill it up with some floral foam from the Dollar Tree and some of their beautiful spring florals. They have some really pretty stuff this year. This foam was the perfect size, but it didn't fill it up lengthwise. So I just added a whole piece to each box, and then I just cut a half a piece to fill up the box all the way. Now to cover up the foam and add a little bit more decor, I'm just going to take some reindeer moss and spread it all around. Some of the reindeer moss I've been buying lately is a really kind of a bright green, but I think it's really pretty for spring. So I just used one package, scattering that throughout the 3 boxes to fill those up before we add our florals. And now check out this hanging eucalyptus that I just got at the Dollar Tree. I've never seen this before. I love the fact that it's hanging. I thought this would look beautiful on the top flower box because it could dangle down on the front there in front of the stand and be really fun. So this had 4 pieces on it. I thought I was going to end up using more, but 4 was plenty because I really only wanted it to dangle down here in the front. So I just put those along the front, scattering those out, and I love them. Another new spring flora I found are these hydrangeas. Aren't they so pretty? They're like a lavender color. I think they're so pretty. So what I did was just cut these down with my wire cutter so they're not too tall. I did make sure to leave the green leaves on there because I think they're pretty. And I think one bunch of those is enough to fill up one of the flower boxes. I do want to do this all basically the same kind of color scheme. So I'm going to use those same flowers in each one of my boxes. But on the bottom, I'm not going to be doing the eucalyptus. I'm just going to be doing the flowers. That combined with reindeer moss, I think will be enough to fill that up, especially with the leaves on there. So again, I just cut these down, making sure to leave the leaves on and spread these throughout the boxes. And this turned out so pretty. It's pretty lightweight since I'm using the foam and the faux florals like this. I'm going to use mine, I think, inside my home for decor, but I think you could probably get away with this out on a porch as well, as long as it's like not going to get like a lot of wind or anything like that. You wouldn't want your stand to break. But this is how it turned out. My little ladder plant stand, I absolutely love it. I think it looks so beautiful for spring. Aren't those flowers and the greenery so pretty? And combined with that awesome ladder plant stand, I really love this design and I'm so glad that I came up with it. I think it would be really versatile too, because you could switch out the greenery in it really easily for different seasons. Hey guys, if you're enjoying today's video, be sure to hit that like button. It really helps. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more DIYs. Now for the next DIY, I found this great battery operated spring candle at the Dollar Tree. They had a couple varieties. This one's got beautiful spring flowers all over it and butterflies. And I thought we could DIY one of their candle holders to make it look really beautiful for spring as well. So I just picked up a plain white ceramic one and some reindeer moss and some flowers. And I thought we could just decorate the entire candlestick. Since it is a faux candle, flameless candle, I don't have to worry about any kind of fire risk, so I can kind of just go crazy with the moss down here. I start here on the sides, and just taking a piece at a time, I'm going to glue those on there. I just tried to get as thin a piece as possible so that it would go pretty far, but I also wanted really good coverage over the white candle holder. My vision for this was I wanted lots of moss, basically covering everything that you're going to see. And then I can cover it with some tiny flowers from the Dollar Tree and some of their baby's breath. I think that would be really pretty. And maybe even a butterfly, since I have a butterfly on my candle. I have crafted with the other version of the flameless spring candle from the Dollar Tree. And so I wanted to do a different version of it. And I love the bright colors on this one. So as you can see, I covered every surface except for the very top where you won't be able to see underneath the candle. And then I just go in with my scissors and give it a quick trim so it retains the shape of the candle holder so it's not too wild. And then I can take the moss that I cut off and use that here for the bottom edge to cover up any of the white ceramic that might be peeking out. So this is what we have so far. And then I thought the baby sprouts from the Dollar Tree, the little tiny ones like this, would look so pretty if I cut them into little individual pieces like this and add these with like some slightly bigger flowers from the Dollar Tree and spring colors. And then I remembered I have a new toy. You guys really recommended that I get one of these hot glue skillets when I'm doing florals and stuff like this. So I picked this one up on Amazon. I think it's the large one. It seems pretty large. And I also picked up some of the glue for it, which looks like glue sticks just cut up. It said not to turn it all the way to high, so I turned it probably 2/3 of the way to high and plugged mine in. Now, the verdict is I absolutely loved this. This really made it so much faster to glue the ends of my flowers. I think for wreath making and stuff like that, this is really going to come in handy. But while I am melting all of that hot glue in my little skillet, I thought I might as well prepare all my flowers. So I tried to find the tiniest flowers I could find from the Dollar Tree, different whites and yellows, and a couple different kinds of pink. And if they had a stem, I just pulled it off. If they didn't, like the pink baby's breath that you see there, I would cut that. And then this is the butterfly off the onion grass. I thought that would be a fun touch on there as well. It's a little bit bigger than I wanted, but I think we can make it work. I just gave mine a quick iron with my heat gun to straighten that out and getting everything ready to put this together. Now, I was a little worried when I was dipping my florals in there that I was going to burn myself on the hot glue, but you know what? I never even touched it. I had no problems whatsoever. I'll be sure to add this little hot glue skillet to my Amazon list linked in the description of today's video. I'll put it under crafting essentials. That's usually where I put my hot glue items. And you can check one out if you are in the market for one. But as you can see, all I have to do is dip the stem of the flowers into that hot glue and attach it. I did baby's breath all over, and then I switched to flowers, just different. There, I got two different kinds of white and two different kinds of pink, and I thought I would just vary those and just go all the way around. Overall, I was a big fan of the hot glue skillet. The only thing that I didn't like about it is that it doesn't have a lid. And for storage purposes, I'm going to have this on my workbench, and things get a little messy out here with me crafting all the time. So I need to either store it in its box or find a lid. Maybe I can DIY a lid for this. So I don't want to get any like wood chips or dust or anything like that in there to mess up the glue the next time I melt it, because it hardens up and then you can melt it again. Now, the only thing I have left is the butterfly. I'm going to do it right here at the base. I added hot glue to it as well, and this is ready to go. All I have to do is add the battery-operated candle, and look how fun for spring this little candle is. Super cute, and again, it's going to be really safe because it is a flameless candle. At first, I thought about DIYing a decoupage candle with one of their spring napkins, but then I remembered that they had these beautiful spring candles from the Dollar Tree that were the flameless ones, and I didn't really have to do anything to the candle at all. Now, let me show you what this looks like lit up. It's a pretty bright candle. Sometimes I avoid the battery-operated candles from the Dollar Tree because they're not super bright, but this one is really pretty. It glows this nice yellow color. And again, let me show you how it looks during the day, and then I'll show you how it flickers with the lights turned off. Super pretty, huh? Now for the next DIY, I wanted to make a birdhouse for spring. So I picked up a wood birdhouse from the Dollar Tree, just the standard one, and a square wood tray. I thought we could put the birdhouse up on a pole and have a garden underneath. But I did want to decoupage everything. So I thought we could decoupage the birdhouse on all four sides. But I thought, I might as well just decoupage the flower box down here, the garden as well. It'll go with it with these beautiful spring flowers from the Dollar Tree. So what I want to do is just cut this napkin in half. I already removed the second layer of it. And then I'm just going to cut it down just because it's way too big right here. I just basically want to concentrate on the flowers. And I'm just going to do a very thin coat of Mod Podge here on the side of my box. And kind of focus on the flower area. I don't want to go all the way to the bottom because it has that like little white line there at the bottom. So I'm basically overlapping on the top and the bottom. Once I get it all on here, then I can go in and remove the excess napkin material. And whenever I have a seam, I always like to rip my napkin instead of cutting it. That way it will blend in. As you can see, I needed the entire napkin. I ripped the edge of that one as well. And I'm going to slightly overlap these. The pattern's not perfect, but I think it'll work. And add that to my Mod Podge, continuing to work my way around until I overlap again, also with the tear. Once I get this on here, I'm not really gonna do Mod Podge over the top of it. I don't really want any excess wrinkling. So the thing I did was I just dried it and then used a sanding sponge from the Dollar Tree to remove the excess napkin. Be really careful that you don't tear, but if you do, you can always add a little bit of Mod Podge usually and fix what you tore. But definitely be gentle with it. The napkin material is a very thin one layer at this point. And basically, I just want it on the outside of the box here. I found that my sanding sponge pretty much got all of it off. I would only have like a tiny little bit of the napkin to tear there. And that looks pretty good. Everything is glued down. Now we can concentrate on the birdhouse. They have a couple different varieties of spring napkins. They have the round one and they have the gingham one. This is my favorite one though, I think, of the three. And I'm not gonna need it to be very tall. I do wanna remove the little white line from the bottom. That way I can line up the base with the base of the birdhouse. I'm gonna start here on the side and just kind of see about how wide I need it to be. And I'm kind of breaking my rule on tearing and actually cutting the corners of this so I can go corner to corner. And then I kind of fold it up underneath the roof of the birdhouse so I know exactly how big the napkin needs to be here for the side. And again, just a very thin coat of Mod Podge. You don't want to do too much. It definitely causes wrinkling if you do. And I just lay that right on top. I thought this would be a fun way to decorate the birdhouse to avoid kind of having to try to hand paint it or anything like this, but also adding a lot of personality. So I do the same thing here for the back. I find out the width, cut that, and what I'm going to do is just leave the roof there till the very end. I add Mod Podge all over the back of my birdhouse and go ahead and glue it on without cutting it first. That way I can kind of fold it up inside the roof like that. And then I just very carefully cut off my excess napkin with a razor blade, and then I can have the perfect size for that. We're going to use that same half of a napkin and keep working our way around. The side panels I found were probably the easiest because, again, I could just cut the width, fold them underneath, and then I would know exactly how much to cut. And you can't really see underneath the roof line too much, so if you don't get it cut perfectly, it's fine. For the front, I thought it would be a little bit easier to decoupage this part if I removed the little perch first. I can always reattach that. And again, I'm going to do this similar to how I did the back. So I'm just going to find the width and then just cut out the rectangle and start attaching it like that. I think that looks pretty good. I put Mod Podge all over and then lay this on here and work that underneath the roof line. Now you're probably going to want to cut this before it starts to set up. You don't want that to get stuck too much on your roof. Mine started sticking a little bit to this, but I was able to get it all off with a baby wipe to get any of the residue off of the roof line. This is what it looks like so far. I do need to cut the opening to the birdhouse. I just do that with a razor blade, being very careful to cut through that napkin. And then I'm also going to reattach the perch just by pushing that through the napkin material back into the hole there on the front. I'm going to have this stand on a pole, I think, and I do want to give it a fun metal roof. So I'm going to use one of these little cookie sheets from the Dollar Tree. They come in the 2-pack. I love using these for like metal roofs and stuff like that. I think they're really cool. They are very delicate though. It's almost like working with aluminum foil. So be very careful with these. I cut down a strip of it. That's going to be the right width. I want to be able to overlap the front and the back a little bit to cover the part of the roof as well. So basically I'm going to be cutting a rectangle to cover the roof, but I'm also making it a little bit larger. And there are rows in this, so you can cut straight lines really easily. And again, be very careful not to push down on it too hard because it definitely wrinkles. I worked mine all the way around so I know exactly how long it should be. And then I added it to this, just molding it like aluminum foil around the edges. I didn't use any glue or anything, but it actually molded to it really well. That way this will cover the front and the sides of the roof as well. And it is a shiny metal roof. I am going to be distressing that to make it look a little bit more worn in the weather, but this is what it looks like at this point. To age it, I'm just going to use some brown acrylic paint and a sponge, and I'm just going to kind of go over and distress it, wiping off any excess with a paper towel. You can kind of add and take away from this and add more to get more of a rusty feel. This was my first coat. I do end up distressing it a little bit more here at the end because I really liked the rusty vibes of the metal roof. And then I want to make a pole that will hold this up in a flower bed. Now, this is what I'm going to use for the pole. This is just a yardstick that I got for $1 at Dollar General. Nice piece of wood, and I cut it down to size probably about 6 inches or so. And I think I'm going to cover that with the metal material as well. I might as well since I have it. You could always stain it or paint it as well, your pole. But I thought this might be a fun metal pole. So what I'm going to do is just cut this down again, trying to get my straight lines, make it long enough, and then I can basically wrap this around like this. I do want it to stay in place though, so I am going to hot glue it closed once I get it overlapped here. And as you can see, it's just really easy to mold around the pole. And even though it's square, I think it's still fun kind of to have a metal pole for this. And I guess you could do this as well with a dowel if you had one large enough, or maybe even a plunger handle would work well too. Just like the roof, I want it to look rusty, so I go over it with a sponge and some brown acrylic paint and wipe off the excess with a paper towel. Just to give it that vintage vibe, I like that so much. And I love distressing everything. Now for the little flower box, we added the flowers to the side, but you can see the raw wood on the very top. So I used that brown paint to kind of just make a stain. And then also here for the base of my birdhouse, this is still raw wood too. So I use that same brown paint to kind of stain that as well. And we will add some more details to that too when we go to decorate this. I want this to stand in a corner, I think. I'm going to do the back right corner. I thought that would be more fun than trying to center it in here. And we can have the birdhouse like standing up in a bed of wildflowers is what I was thinking. So I used hot glue to attach our pole. And then before I put my birdhouse on there, we can go ahead and start decorating the flower box. I'm just cutting those small pieces of floral foam from the Dollar Tree in half because it doesn't need to be very thick. And then I can just cut pieces down to fit the size box, working my way around the little pole as well, just to fill up the volume back there as well. And then I'm going to cover the entire thing with some reindeer moss. This is not a very thick tray. That's why I had to cut the foam in half. So it's not too thick. And I still have room to add a little moss here for our flower bed. And then for the items I found, I wanted like pinks and purples. So these are lavenders that I actually got at Walmart, I think, because I couldn't find any at Dollar Tree. But they have a similar one at Dollar Tree, about the same scale. And I'm just going to cut these off and scatter them all over. I'm going to combine them with the pink baby's breath from the Dollar Tree. I think that these are going to look great, matching the pink and the purple flowers that are all over those napkins. And so I just cut them fairly short, but with enough wire in there that I can push that down into the floral foam. And just using those two colors all over. I add some hot glue to the end of my pole and attach my little birdhouse right on top. Super cute. I am loving it. I thought I would add a little bit of moss to the ledge around the bottom of the birdhouse too. Right here where it comes together, just to add a little bit of greenery up here as well. I don't have a bird quite tiny enough to go in this DIY, but that would be really cute if you did. I just go around all four sides of that, also adding that little tiny bit of moss up there, and I think that was a fun detail. I do want to add a little bit of nesting material inside too, so I add a little bit of Spanish moss right inside to make it look like there's a bird nest inside. And then I went ahead and went over my metal roof and my metal pole with some matte Mod Podge just to kind of tone down the shininess and up the rusty factor on that. And then I did go in and distress it a little bit more with some more brown paint just to make it look really old and rusty. And I think that looks really fun. So this is how it turned out, our little birdhouse spring DIY. Super pretty. I love the napkin decoupage on there. All of the bright colors, the pinks and the purples are perfect for spring. And I'm glad I decided to decoupage the flower box too. It just tied the whole thing together. Isn't that so cute? And it's not super big. You could really put this about anywhere in your home to decorate for spring. Now for this DIY, I wanted to make a garden toolbox. So I'm going to use 2 of the little breadboards from the Dollar Tree. These are the chunky wood signs that they have from the Dollar Tree. And just remove the tags on those. For the bottom and the sides, I'm going to use the little rectangular wood planks like this from the Crafter Square at Dollar Tree. 3 of those should be fine. And then for the handle of the little garden toolbox, I'm just going to use a dowel. So I tried to find the biggest ones I could find from the Dollar Tree, which is the 2-pack. And we can put this all together. Now I do want to stain this. I want to bring out that wood grain and make my wood match a little bit better than it does now. So again, I'm going to use Antique Wax by Waverly with some water and make a very light stain to go over all of this. I thought that would provide a little bit more warmth to it, but again, I don't want to make it too dark since it is for spring. And I want to fill this up with like flower pots from the Dollar Tree. I found some really great pastel colored garden tools from Dollar General for only $1. And I thought this would be a really cute little fun idea for spring. So what I did was just stain the front and the back of the little breadboards and the sides. We're going to do the same thing here with both sides of our little wood planks. These don't take the stain quite as well as the chunkier wood, but it's close enough that it should all go well together. I just put it on there, letting it soak in a little bit, and then drying it off with a dry paper towel. And I do that on both sides. I am also going to need to stain the wood dowel, but I also need to measure that to see how big I need it to be. So I want to go ahead and start putting this together first. I'm going to add the bottom first. I just add hot glue on the bottom of my little wood breadboard on both sides and just sit that on the wood plank, lining it up with the edge. Now I can see how big of a handle I need for this little toolbox. And I'm just going to take this dowel to my saw and cut this down to size. I always seem to cut them a little bit short, but we're going to make it work. And I also do need to stain this, so I'm going to use a little bit of that stain mixed with water to add to this dowel, and then I'm going to attach this with hot glue. You could also screw this in or nail this in from the sides, but it's a pretty small little tool caddy, so I think that the hot glue is going to be plenty strong. Once I get that on there, I can add the sides. As you can see, this pretty much fills up the entire side of the little toolbox. And it's okay if there's a little bit of opening here at the bottom. It actually kind of adds to the look. I just attach that with hot glue on both sides and flip it over and add this to the other side. I kind of like that knotty wood look. I'm going to make sure that that is on the front of my toolbox. Now it's pretty much constructed. Now I want to decorate it a little bit. So I thought it would be fun to add some burlap. I'm using the burlap roll from the Dollar Tree. It's a perfect width for this. And I'm going to cut out a piece for the front and the back to cover this, just to add a little bit of fun. I think burlap kind of goes with the garden vibe. And I thought that texture would be really cute on there. So I just attach it with Mod Podge and I flip it over, cut another piece of the burlap ribbon and glue this on as well. I do want to add a word as well to this. I think that would be really cute to our little tool caddy, something to make it look like a garden tool caddy. And so I took some Dollar Tree wood letters and I picked out the word grow. I'm going to attach these to some double-sided tape and paint these. I have a pink and purple for the little shovel and the rake. So I thought another fun spring color would be green. I'm using like this key lime color of acrylic paint and a makeup sponge and just going over my wood letters. I think that's going to be perfect. It'll fill this up nicely. And I love different things with words on them like this. I think it's really fun. And you could do any kind of word. If you made a little bit longer of a toolbox, you could add a longer word like bloom or something like this. But I think 4 letters is all this one's going to fit. I just attached them with hot glue to the burlap. And we have our toolbox, and now we can start decorating it. This is my inspiration piece, the little tools from the Dollar Tree, the little garden tools. I thought these were so cute, the little pink shovel and the purple rake. I also picked up some terracotta pots from the Dollar Tree. These are the smaller ones that come in a 3-pack, and I think we'll use all of them on this DIY. I'm going to use a little Spanish moss to fill up one of the pots so I can kind of do a stacked pot look like that. I think that looks cute. And then I'm also going to put some Spanish moss here in the other pot and add the little garden tools. I was trying to decide how they were going to fit in here better. They're a little large for the pot, but I think we can make it work if we kind of wedge them in there with a little bit of the Spanish moss for filler. Then I wanted a little green in there too. So I'm going to bring some reindeer moss in too. I can have some of that in one of my empty flower pots and maybe some here in the corner of the pot as well. And then I decided I thought you couldn't really see these pots well enough on the left. So I added a little bit of Spanish moss just to raise everything up so you could see the stacked pots a little bit better. I like that look. I think that looks pretty cool. And then I just added a little bit more Spanish moss here and there just until everything kind of set the way that I wanted it to and it's not going to fall over anymore. Just kind of filling that in as a filler. And here it is, our little garden toolbox for spring. It's so pretty. Let me show you all of the bright colors on this. It's a nice compact size, so it doesn't take up too much room, but it totally gives you that garden vibe for spring, and I think it's really pretty with the burlap on there and the word grow. Isn't that so cute? I love it. I love those little tools from Dollar General as well. I'm going to use 2 of the little wood crate boxes from the Dollar Tree, 1 of the wood trays, and 2 of the new wood easel kits that they have at the Dollar Tree. I wanted to try these. They have a little bit more pieces than the old kit. And look, they even have hardware. Like they have like chains, cup hooks and stuff like that, which I'm going to save those and use those for another DIY for sure. But I'm going to use the screws and the little wing nuts to help put this together. I'm going to use 2 kits and I'm going to use them in a little bit different way. In my last spring craft video, I made a ladder plant stand that you guys really loved using the more traditional easels that they had that were already put together. But these are the new kits. They come with all of these pieces like this. So I thought I could come up with a new design for a ladder plant stand by using one of the long pieces, that is the stand, and then one of the slanted pieces from the easel like that, and putting them together instead of how you traditionally put it together. Now, the only problem with that is it does make your screw a little bit too long, but you know what? It's going to be on the back, but I think that that's going to make it a lot stronger to actually use the hardware at the top instead of the hot glue, so we're going to go with it. So as you can see, I am doing the mitered one, the one that's kind of got the slant on it on one side, and pairing that with the straight stand piece like that. So one is straight and one is slanted to the side like that. So the slanted part can come out in the front like that. And then we can make some shelves using the rest of the wood pieces that come with it. To hold those, I found 2 of the little wood crates from the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to attach them together with some hot glue to make a larger crate for the bottom of our plant stand, a large flower box. And then I also found one of the wood boxes from the Dollar Tree that is the same width, which is really important, but it's shorter than the 2 put together like that. So that can be the top flower box for the stand. We're only going to have 2 shelves on this. But the first thing I'm going to do is paint everything. I wanted everything to be white, and I thought it would be easier to paint all of the pieces now before I put it all together. This is what I'm thinking, using the smaller wood pieces like this to make little shelves here that we can then put the flower boxes onto. I'm going to need little ledges here for the top too, so I'm going to use my other slanted piece like this, and then I can cut down a couple of pieces of that for the top shelf. So I'm pretty much using most of the wood from the 2 kits like this. So I'm just going to have to cut that piece down to size. Doesn't need to be that long, just I want to do a little bit longer than the flower boxes that I'm going to sit on it. And I am just going to go ahead and cut those down to size now so I can get 4 pieces like that. You could also add wood planks or something like that on these and have wood shelves on this ladder stand instead of adding the flower boxes like I do. That would totally work. So I went ahead and measured about how long I want these to be. And I don't know what I was thinking with that first line. I think I want it to be like right about here. So I'm going to cut all 4 of those the same length. I'm so glad that they have been carrying these at all of my Dollar Trees, these little easel kits. They come in a box, and my stores have been having them down on the bottom shelf if you're looking for them in the crafter square. I didn't like that some of those pieces had holes in them, 2 of the pieces that were the more traditional pieces to go straight across. So I just filled those in with a little spackle so you won't be able to see that in my design. Now I did make a little bit of a mistake with this one. I thought that it would be easier to paint all the pieces before I put it together. And I guess that it is because I'm going to be painting everything white. So I need to paint every surface of all the different pieces here of our ladder plat stand white. The only problem with that is when you're constructing things with hot glue, I use a Gorilla Glue hot glue and it is really strong, but it's not that strong when you paint a surface first. The wood products from the Dollar Tree always construct so much better when you use hot glue before the paint. So if you are recreating this, what I'm suggesting is the stand itself, don't paint or stain until after you put that together. These wood crates like this and the wood box, definitely go ahead and paint and stain those if you want to, because that's not going to cause you any problems in the design. But the easel part, I shouldn't have painted first, and I did have a few problems with that when I went to put it together about strength of the plant stand, and I will show you how I fixed that as well. So I just painted everything white, and for colors that I use a lot like that, I have found that you can get those larger bottles of apple barrel paint like that from Amazon. So I've started getting some larger sizes of those. They're just as cheap on Amazon as they are at Walmart, I believe. And you get, Amazon Prime shipping. So that works out really well. So I'll try to add some of those larger bottles to my Amazon shop, linked in the description of my video as well, since I've kind of switched to some of those. And as you can see, I went over everything. So I went over all of the sides of the little wood planks, all of the sides of the easel, and top, bottom, inside, outside, everything of the flower boxes so everything can be white. Now let's start putting this together. This step is kind of optional. I do have a miter scissors, so I'm just going to cut this off, a little bit of a slant there on that front piece, just so it will sit a little bit better. But I think it would work without that too. I just trimmed that off like that because I think that's going to help the design a little bit. And then what I need to do is put our little braces, one on the front and one on the back. This is where I came into the problem with painting it because it just wasn't as strong gluing the painted wood to each other. And so I did have to get a little bit more aggressive with that. What I did was I went up about 1.5 inches on mine. I'm just going to mark that off where I want to put my first row. And I have the slanted part up, as you can see, and the flat part is down on the ground. I used hot glue to attach this part together. I think this would have worked if I would have constructed it when it was raw wood, because I did do that with my other ladder plant stand, just using hot glue, and everything was super strong. But I'll show you what happens with this one. So I go up a 1.5 inches here on the slanted side as well, attaching that with hot glue. And I think the paint just interferes, with the bond a little bit there when you're gluing wood to wood. You could always use some wood glue if you got lots of time to let that set up. And I'm just testing that out to make sure that my bin is going to fit, and that's when it started falling apart already. So I knew that there was a problem. So to fix that, I have some little nails that I got from the Dollar Tree, kind of the medium-sized ones that are long enough to go through the brace piece and only partially through the easel so they won't be seen. Now, I should have drilled holes on these, and I did get a little bit of split wood on these. They're going to be inside the stand, and so I think I can fix it, but if you're going to nail yours, you probably should drill holes. I was just being lazy and didn't want to break out the drill on those. But what I did was I started the nails through them all the way through where they're poking out the back just a little bit, so it'd be easier to start these and nail those into the frame exactly where I was hot gluing them before. And I'm only going to do it for the bottom row here. I think that's going to provide enough structure. And for the other reason is I can't really get my hammer in between the stand to be able to hide the nails like that on the top. And I think it turned out plenty stable this way. So definitely learn from my mistakes and construct yours and then paint it or stain it. Or you could even leave it raw wood. I did think about that. And I am going to nail this other side on as well. And so much stronger using the nails on the bottom and the screws on the top. Now let's try this out again, putting our tray in there. I think that's going to work. I can have my second flower box up here towards the top, trying to figure out kind of where I want to put those. Right about there. And again, not enough room to nail these, and I really don't think that that part's necessary. So I'm just going to attach mine with hot glue, trying to maintain the same width here of our little ladder plant stand. And since I couldn't nail it, I used lots of hot glue. I let the hot glue set up, and then I also added hot glue on top. And even a little bit under you're not going to be able to see it. So I think that we can hide that. And let's put one here on the other side as well. The one on the front is going to be slanted a little bit because of the slanted wood coming out of the front. So it's not going to sit directly on there, the wood box, but I think we can make it work. So I just reinforced that with some extra hot glue. And I am going to use a little bit of spackle to fix the splitting on the wood that I got from nailing into those thin pieces of wood. I guess that's kind of inevitable if you're going to nail into those without drilling first. So let's go ahead and start planning to put this together. I'm going to add hot glue on the back and on the front. On the front, I kind of do it more towards the very top since, again, that piece is a little bit slanted. And I'm going to hot glue these in place. Now, it's not necessary to hot glue these in place, but I thought it would also help with the stability of the project. And just showing you there that that top corner is where you're going to want to add your hot glue for the front piece, again, because it is slanted. So let's go ahead and put the top flower box on too. Going to attach that with hot glue the same exact way and gluing these in place. And it turned out so cute. It's a different design than I did before, but I love it. I think it's really cute. I just touched up the top there with a little bit more paint. I also painted my nails there on the front just so they kind of blend in a little bit. And even having longer screws like that coming out of the back, it doesn't really bother me. But you could always use a shorter screw for that or hot glue that together if you wanted to. Now it's time to fill it up with florals. I found some really great spring florals at Dollar Tree today. They have so many pretty ones this year. I am just going to start by filling them up with floral foam. My top box is a lot shorter than the crates on the bottom, so the foam pieces from the Dollar Tree are a little too thick. So what I'm going to do is just cut them in half and just piece everything together. I love cutting this foam with the little pool noodle cutter from the Dollar Tree. It works really well, but really any kind of knife I think would probably work. But I don't have to worry about cutting my silicone mat, which I have tended to do in the past. These are the flowers that we're going to use. They are called wisteria, and I found them in pink and purple today, and they are like a droopy flower like this. They are kind of making my foam come out though, so I quickly learned that I'm going to have to glue all my foam down into my little flower boxes so that when I droop the flowers down, I'm not going to be pulling the foam out while I do that. I thought it'd be really pretty to mix the pinks and the purples together. So what I'm going to do is just shorten these. I'm cutting them off really short there on the wire because I want them to bend and kind of go over the edges of it like that. And I'm going to leave the leaves on them if they have them, just add a little bit more greenery. I haven't added any moss or anything yet because I wasn't sure how thick this was going to be. I'll go ahead and add all of that later. But as you can see, I'm just kind of staggering them out. Like I did 3 pink across, 2 purple in the middle, and then I'll reverse that here on the bottom. I started there with the floral box on the bottom. I have both boxes, but I want to blend them together to make that look like one larger flower box. And so I just keep adding these, alternating them. I do want them coming out of the sides, wherever. They don't droop as much as the greenery that I used on my other flower box DIY. But what I found is if you put them into the foam a little bit at an angle and kind of bend them down a little bit, they droop way better because they're not real flexible, like they're not wired or anything like that. And I really wanted that cascading look of flowers going down my flower box. So I just kept adding and arranging these till it looked really full and beautiful for spring. And I love the pink and the purple colors together. I think that looks so pretty. And then for the moss, I'm using some reindeer moss. I wanted a bright green for spring. And so I'm going to use a package of that and fill in any areas where you might see some of that floral foam there on our flower box. It's almost done. I'm going to add a little bit more of the reindeer moss down here at the bottom. And this project turned out great. I love the ladder plant stand. The only thing is I definitely shouldn't have painted it before I started putting it together because I think hot glue would have worked. But this is how it turned out. Isn't it so pretty? I love it. Now, if you are going to be using yours outdoors, you might want to use a stronger glue, of course, or you might want to nail all of your pieces on for your brace supports. but I think it's really colorful. This is what it looks like from the front, our little ladder plant stand. And this is kind of showing you a side angle so you can see how it works. So you have your straight edge there on the back again. You have your slanted edge coming out on the front. I have two sizes flower boxes. I had to construct the one on the bottom to make it bigger, but what I did is when I bought my little wood bins at the Dollar Tree, definitely made sure that they were the same width so it would work out perfectly. Isn't that so pretty? Hey guys, if you're enjoying today's video, be sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. For the next DIY, I wanted to take a wood crate from the Dollar Tree and one of their house-shaped shadow box signs like this. And this one fits in here almost perfectly into this size of wood bin. And I thought we could make a birdhouse flower box. This turned out so fun. The first thing I'm going to do is paint everything white again. I was going to stain this, but I decided to do it white because I'm matching two different kinds of wood together. So I thought it would be more consistent to do this part of the piece in white. So I just went all over the frame of it. Originally, I thought about popping out the back of the frame, but this one was really well put together. So we're going to leave it in and I'm going to show you how I decorated it. I love how it turned out. I'm just going on the inside and the outside of the house-shaped frame. I don't really have to do the bottom because you're not going to be able to see that. That's going to be down inside the flower box. And I'm also going to go over the background there to kind of disguise that tie-dye. And then I'm going to paint my flower box white as well. This will make it all blend in more together. When I was choosing this wood crate from the Dollar Tree, I made sure that the little house sign fit down inside there really almost perfectly. There's a little bit of a gap on each side, but I definitely wanted one that I could fit the house sign down into. I want to use that house-shaped sign to be the birdhouse for this little planter. And this was a really fun DIY. I'm only going to paint the outside and the outer rim there on that one because you're not going to be able to see inside of it. Now to cover the back, I found this great spring bag from the Dollar Tree. It's just one of their shopping bags that they sell. And I'm going to cut out this cute little bluebird with the flowers on here. I thought this would be perfect for a birdhouse. And it's got a little bluebird on there. I love that. It's a tribute to my mother that passed away about 6 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. After she passed away, she sent me bluebirds all the time. She still sends me bluebirds to say hello, I think, which I love. So I'm going to cut this down to size. It was a little bit hard because I had to cut on the inside here of the frame, and I didn't really have a template or anything to go with. So I'm just going to cut one side at a time. Cutting the 3 bottom edges is pretty easy. But then you also have to kind of cut the roof line here. And I was trying not to cut too much off, but I was able to cut it a little bit larger than what I needed. And then I can just trim that down to size and put that on the back. The only thing I didn't like about the shopping bag is it's really glossy on the front. And so I'm going to have to tone that down a little bit to use it the way that I want here because I don't want it to be really shiny. The back is almost like a fabric texture on these bags. I think this is the first time I've crafted with one of these style bags from the Dollar Tree, but I love finding new uses for items like this from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to put a nice thick coat of Mod Podge here on the back of our birdhouse sign and then attach that sign right on top. Since it's so thick and durable, the material, I don't have to wait for that to dry or anything. I just smoothed it out with a dry paper towel to try to avoid any bubbling, make sure it's down really flat. And I'm using the matte Mod Podge from Dollar Tree, so it's going to take away some of that shininess, but it's really shiny. So it's going to take several coats of that to tone that down a little bit. I don't care if it's a tiny bit shiny, but I really didn't want it to be really glossy like it was originally. So I just went over that. I think I ended up doing at least 3 coats of the Mod Podge on there to tone that down. And I was really happy with that. I love the fact that there's a bird back there. You could really use anything. You could also use some of like the spring floral napkins, stuff like that from the Dollar Tree, or even some of their pretty tissue papers if you can't find this bag to decorate your little birdhouse in the back. And then I'm going to use some hot glue to glue my little birdhouse down into my planter box. And you can kind of see the structure of this coming together. I thought it'd be really cute with a roof though. So I got some craft wood from the Dollar Tree that's a little bit wider than the wood house frame. And I'm going to cut this down to size. I do want this to look like a roof, and so I'm actually going to use my miter saw to try to cut an angle so I can have the perfectly peaked roof and I won't have any gaps here at the top. So, I have a miter saw and I never use it for that function, so I actually had to go look at a YouTube video to figure out how to use it, right? But what I did is I cut it at a 30-degree angle, both pieces, and made them the same width. And I think that's going to work out perfectly. I'm glad that I actually challenged myself to do that. And then I am going to stain it with some antique wax by Waverly. This raw wood from the Dollar Tree stains really well. I didn't want it to be super dark though, so that's why I'm using a wet wipe after I put it on there just to thin it out, take it down a little bit, and I'm going to go over all of the different sides of a roof. I thought this would give it a little bit more of a rustic feel, break up all of the white that we have going on the birdhouse. And I can just glue them here at the top. And you know what? I cut the angle perfectly on these, so I was really happy with this. It's a perfectly peaked roof. I just attached that with hot glue here at the top. Now the fun part, time to fill it up with florals. Again, I'm going to use some Dollar Tree foam to fill up the box a little bit, just trimming these pieces down to size to make them work for this size of the wood bin. And I found some smaller flowers and little berries from the Dollar Tree that I think are going to work really well. And I just want to fill it up all over, so I'm just adding pieces wherever just to fill it up. And then I'm going to do some reindeer moss on the top of the foam to cover that up. So I can add all of those little spring florals in there. I want it to look like a little spring flower garden in front of our birdhouse in the little flower box. So these are the flowers that I chose. I was trying to find small ones. These are the pink baby's breath from the Dollar Tree. And these are called a summer filler, but I thought they're really pretty. They're like pink berries. And then I think these are really beautiful. A gypso is what they're called, little tiny bluish lavender flowers. And I'm just going to cut these down and make these work. Now, this is a pretty small planter, so even the baby's breath like this was a little too tall because I don't want to cover up that adorable bird. So I'm just going to cut this down to size. And you don't need any wire when it comes to this really soft floral foam from the Dollar Tree. You can just use the plastic like this to be able to put these down in here. And yes, I am still wearing sleeves. I am still covered head to toe in poison ivy. If you guys see my last video, you guys know I was landscaping and got into poison ivy, and I have it so, so, so bad. And so I did finally go to the doctor after a week of suffering and got on prednisone, and it is helping. I'm still having issues, but hopefully, once I really get into the treatment, it's going to get a lot better because it was not getting any better. After a week, it was maybe getting worse. I'm even going to use the greenery here on the summer filler piece to fill in the little gaps. I think that looks really good. I'm not necessarily going to use the fern piece on here. I didn't think that really went with the vibe I was going, but I thought the greenery would be perfect to add to this. So I did the pink flowers, the greenery, and then the little blue flowers, super cute, just to mix up the colors a little bit and fill this all up. And thank you guys all so much for all of your poison ivy tips. If you have any more, be sure to leave them in the comments below today's video. I've been trying to take oatmeal baths before bed, and that has been helping a little bit, helping me to sleep without all of the itchy skin. I have it on both arms, my hands, a little bit between my fingers, my legs, my feet, and even my face. Can you believe it? I I don't know what I did, but I really don't like it. But I love how the spring little birdhouse flower box turned out, and that's so pretty. I love the colors on that. I think it looks really a bright painted white, and I love all the pinks and the blues, and that cute little bluebird there in the back just makes the birdhouse, I think. For the next DIY, I'm going to make a basket wreath using one of the wood bead wreaths from the Dollar Tree and a placemat. Now, I did get this idea off of Pinterest. I'm going to change mine up a little bit, and I'm going to give a shout out to who I got that idea from. Whenever I borrow an idea, I always want to give a shout out. I saw it on Pinterest, but it looks like the original craft was done by the shabbytree.com. What they did was they combined one of the wood bead wreaths like this, and then they also, the placemat, they made theirs a cone shape though. I thought I wanted mine to have a flat bottom to my basket, and so I'm going to change the design slightly to make it the way I want it. So the first thing I did was hot glue this up like this, and that sandwiched the wood bead wreath in there, so I don't need to attach that in another way. So that was helpful. And then I can fold it and then fold each side in like that, creating the basket. I thought that was a great use for these little placemats from the Dollar Tree. This is one of the new colors that is in with the summer section. I think it matches the sea turtle stuff that they have. And well, my store doesn't have it, all disappeared immediately since they don't have shore living this year. And I just glue this on. Now, since there's different layers, I do need to glue them one layer at a time. This is going to be the top layer, and it did take a minute or two for my hot glue to set up between each layer. I just made sure to hold those in place and then glue on the next layer like that until I have this great shape in the front where it kind of, veers down like that and opens up to make plenty of room for greenery for this basket wreath. And this is definitely the easiest basket wreath I've ever put together. The original, again, had theirs in a cone, so it went to a point at the bottom, but I didn't really want that. I really wanted my basket to have a bottom, and folding it also worked to attach the wood bead wreath to the top, which makes a great hanger because it's not a very large wreath, those wood bead wreaths from the Dollar Tree. And so that's what mine looks like so far. I think it looks great. For a hanger, I'm just going to use a little bit of twine here right in the middle of my wood bead wreath there at the top. And now we can fill it up with florals. These are the spikeweed, I think they're called, from the Dollar Tree. I picked them up in a beautiful color of pink and white. I have a little bit more of the pink than the white. I don't have a lot of room for foam in there, so I'm just going to use some moss. I used some reindeer moss on that, and I'm just going to start cutting these apart. Trying to make sure my wire is not too long so they don't stick up too much. But I do have this great basket to fill up with florals. You could fill this up with really any florals that match your color scheme. I really like that light blue green color that the placemat is, combined with the pinks and the whites. And you could even paint your wood bead wreath if you wanted to add a little bit more color, but I thought it would be a lot easier just to leave that natural wood like that, and I think it looks really pretty too. So I just go through and I did a row alternating colors, and I'm going to do a second row here too of flowers just to make it more full. You can see about how much flowers that I needed for this. These are a nice tiny flower from the Dollar Tree, so I thought they'd fit really well in there and make it look really full like that. A lot of my reindeer moss got pushed down a little bit because I used it for filler, so I am going to add a little bit more reindeer moss here in the front and even some in the back just to fill it up, open it up a little bit, make it a little bit more like a basket. This would be really cute for Easter too, if you wanted to fill it up with eggs or something like that. But we're doing it for spring. We're going to do a little spring basket wreath, and I think this turned out so cute. This will look great hanging on your door or even on your wall. I think I'm going to use mine on my wall, maybe in my kitchen area. It looks so beautiful for spring. I love all of their spring florals. I found so many great finds, and I bought a ton of them, even though I probably didn't need any because I have such a flower stash from the Dollar Tree. But the basket wreath idea turned out great, so thank you to the Shabby Tree for the original idea. For the next one, I wanted to make a little flower box that also had a fence and a little birdhouse. So I picked up a wood crate from the Dollar Tree and a wood birdhouse. It doesn't really matter which birdhouse you get or which wood crate you get. I think you can make this work with about anything. For the fence, I'm going to use the wood rulers from the Dollar Tree. They come in a 2-pack like this. All you have to do is remove the stickers, and they have a beveled edge on them as well. Now, it would probably be cheaper if you wanted to use paint stirrer sticks for this, but I really tried to source my materials from the Dollar Tree to make it easier for you. So I'm going to do mine with the Dollar Tree wood rulers. I have 3 for my fencing, and then I want a piece for the brace to go across probably the back, because I think the bevel would look good on the front like that, and I can put it together like that. I want one of my wood fencing to be taller to hold a birdhouse for this little flower box, and then I can have the little wood crate at the bottom to be the flower box. Since I need one to be taller, I'm going to have to cut down 2 of my rulers, lengthwise and then one widthwise because it's going to be too wide. So let me just go to my saw really quick and cut down those wood rulers. And as you can see, they are a great source of raw wood. They're not too thick, but they're pretty strong. I'm going to do my taller wood fencing in the middle like that. And again, I'm going to do the bevel in the front just because I think it's kind of pretty. This is the longest piece. I'm going to kind of hide the hole in my ruler by gluing that down inside my flower box like that. And then I can glue one of the fence panels on each side, just with some hot glue on the inside of my wood crate like that. Now I want to do the brace for the back. That's why I did the other piece. So I'm going to attach that, but to make this a little bit stronger, I'm going to use my staple gun to staple all those rulers on to make that super stable. You're not going to be able to see that down inside the flower box like that. And then I want my brace piece to be like this. Now I did make a little oopsie here, but it was on the back, so I was able to fix it. I forgot about the bevel and I was gluing it down, bevel side down instead of flat side, but I was able to fix my error pretty quickly. And it shouldn't interfere with the staining or anything that I'm going to do with this, with the hot glue on the wood because it's going to be on the back. Now I wanted a more medium finish, so what I did was I mixed water together with my antique wax by Waverly, and we're gonna stain everything. I love staining the Dollar Tree wood. I think it looks really pretty. The wood grain looks great. Sometimes there's some areas like the corners like here where they're glued. It doesn't really take the stain very much. I'll show you how I go about fixing that. But as you can see, this is a very thin stain. I'm just adding it and drying it with a paper towel to let that raw wood really soak that in. And again, I don't want it to be super dark in color. And I'm just going to stain everything. It's just going to make it easier. So I did the outside of my box, the inside, and we're also going to be doing the fence in that kind of stain too. I thought that was a fun look. You could also do yours in white too if you wanted to paint yours, or even do a whitewash by mixing some white paint with some water as well. That would be really cute. And since this is a standalone piece, I'm going to go ahead and stain the back of everything too to make everything really look nice. And I think this is going to work great for a backdrop for the birdhouse. Here on the side where it had a little bit of glue that prevented the staining, I just used some of the antique wax just straight like that to disguise that a little bit. It's not going to be perfect, but it's a side, so I think it's going to work out fine. For the birdhouse, I do want to make it bright and colorful, but I also want it to go with the vibes of the stain of the fencing and the flower box. So the first thing I did was just use that same wash to stain everything, the roof, the base, the birdhouse. And then I can go over the birdhouse with a color, and the paint plus the staining is going to make it look really rustic, but it's also going to brighten it up and add some spring colors to this. So I just used a small paintbrush and some bright pink acrylic paint, and I am just going over where I stained it. I'm going to leave the little bird perches here stained for a little contrast, and just going around the little holes. This one has 2 holes in it for this little birdhouse, but I want to leave the roof stained and I want to leave the bottom of it stained. So I am just going over the birdhouse and the top of the bottom to bring that pink in. And since this is a standalone piece, you might be able to see it from different sides. I'm going to go ahead and paint all 4 sides. And again, just using the smaller brush was able to let me kind of stay where I wanted to with the paint without using any painter's tape. Now to attach it to my fence post, I need to make my fence post thicker to make a base because it's too thin right now with just the rulers. To do that, I'm going to use 4 of the little Jenga blocks from the toy aisle at the Dollar Tree. I hot glued 2. They're about the same exact width of the ruler, and then another 2 just to make it even wider here. Now this is going to make it a little bit back heavy, but I planned on weighing down the flower box to offset the weight of the birdhouse on the top. So I'll show you how I do that. I'm just going to use some pebbles in there. I did stain it to match everything else, the little wood Jenga blocks, and then hot glue here on the top, and then lay my little birdhouse on here. It's actually a pretty tall flower box, and I just used Dollar Tree pebbles here to fill up about half my crate, and that weighed it down perfectly to make it stand on its own. For the florals, I'm going to be using some lavender from the Dollar Tree, some of the spike bush, and some of their eucalyptus. I thought these colors would work well and bring in the pinks and purples for spring. I'm going to be using the pebbles down there at the bottom instead of the foam, and then I filled it up with reindeer moss like that. So that's what it looks like so far before the florals. And this is going to work out well without using any foam or hot glue on my flowers, I think, because I can just stand them down inside the pebbles like that. If you're going to use this project outside, you're probably going to want to glue that stuff down though. But I wanted it to almost look like a little butterfly garden here at the base of our birdhouse. And so I thought that the eucalyptus, the lavender, and the spike bush looked really pretty for a little DIY butterfly garden. We're even going to add a butterfly to it as well. I thought that'd be really fun. So I did the greenery across the bottom. I mixed in some of the lavender. I don't want anything to be too tall, but I do have a little bit of room to go up the sides of our little DIY fence. And that fence was so easy, just using the rulers from the Dollar Tree. And whenever you have the individual raw pieces of wood like that, it just makes crafting so much easier. And I just want to mix in lots of pinks and purples into this greenery, make it look really full, our little flower box here at the bottom. And then for the butterfly, I'm going to use one of the pink butterflies on the onion grass from the Dollar Tree. I just simply pulled mine off, gave it a little iron with my heat gun, and some of the eucalyptus had like a little spike here at the end. I was able to just set it right on there just like it was on the original plant. So easy. And then for a little nesting material, I used a little bit of Spanish moss coming out of both of the openings to make it look like there's a little bird's nest in the top of our birdhouse here. I don't want it to be too crazy, sticking out maybe just a little bit here at the top. And this is how it turned out, our little birdhouse fence flower box. I think it's so pretty and fun for spring. What do you guys think about this design? I was really happy with how it turned out. It's so colorful with all of the pink and the purple. We have our little butterfly garden there at the bottom and our birdhouse on the top with our fence. I love it. I think it's so fun. I wanted to see if I could turn one of the Dollar Tree wood trays into a flower cart. I thought it would be a really fun challenge, and so I'm going to use one of the new wood easel kits from the Dollar Tree for extra wood. If you can't find these little kits, you could always use Jenga blocks or other craft wood. I really like them though. Now, for the outside of my tray, I decided to take some of the medium size popsicle sticks. These are the ones from Walmart, and they're a little bit longer and wider than the ones from the Dollar Tree, and it will cover the entire side. I thought we could do like a slatted board on the side to give it just a little bit more texture and also cover the handles on the end. Now, this step is totally optional, and if I were to make it again, I don't know if I would include them because when I went to stain it, they did warp a little bit, being this thin wood, but not too bad. I just cut them down to size. I want them to be like two, like that, where they're kind of staggered to make it look like a wood crate and to slightly be taller than the tray. This would also be a good option if you can only find the ones with like the star cutouts or the heart cutouts or something like that, and you don't want to be able to see the handles at all. But the regular handles really aren't that distracting. I just kind of wanted the textured surface of the wood. So I'm just cutting those down. I'm just using scissors and hot glue. I did the ends first, and then we will do the sides. And the reason, again, I use these larger ones from Walmart is because they were as long as the tray. I don't think Dollar Tree, I know Dollar Tree has a couple sizes of popsicle sticks. I get like the small and I guess the medium. And but Walmart has like these large ones, and they also have jumbo ones which are really big, which are great for crafting. So whenever I do go to Walmart, I always try to pick those up. So I cut down enough for all four sides. What I was thinking is that this is going to be where the flowers are on my flower cart, and I can attach legs. That's where the easel kit comes in handy. Now there's two pieces that are slanted that go together to make the easel, and then there's one piece that's the easel stand, and they all seem to be about the same size wood. And I thought these would be coming handy for crafting, so I keep picking these up, these little easel kits from the Dollar Tree. I just kind of estimated how long I wanted my leg to be. I don't know. I didn't really measure it. It's maybe about 3 inches, and I'm going to cut out two. I love using my miter scissors. I got these on Amazon. I think I have them listed in my Amazon shop in the description of today's video. I probably need to get some new blades though, because the Florida humidity out in my garage is rusting those, right? And then for the tires, I'm going to use some of the wood rings from the Dollar Tree. These are the little wood craft rings. I wasn't sure what size I would need, but I decided to go with this larger one for 2 wheels. Anything round is really going to work for a wheel. If you have any like wood circles made out of craft wood, I've even used like the little shape puzzles from the toy aisle at the Dollar Tree for circles, but I thought the wood rings would be perfect. So the front legs need to be shorter. So I kind of lined it all up there to see how long I would need those legs to be to center those on my little DIY wheels. Now, this is a fun crafting find. These are actually coffee stirrers. I ordered these for my coffee bar. You get like 1,000 of them from Amazon. So I've linked these in my Amazon shop as well as a crafting supplies because they came in really handy for these. As you can see, they're little teeny tiny pieces of wood. I'm going to cut out 3 for each one. The reason I wanted these instead of like skewers from the Dollar Tree is that they're flat. So I will be able to stack these on top of each other, and they're so thin that they're not going to interfere with my design. So I take my wood ring and I just glue it on both sides with just a tiny dot of hot glue, and then I glue another one on it, forming an X, and then a third one. Since they are so thin, you can almost mold them a little bit so they'll bend slightly and they'll stack perfectly to make a little wheel in it. I think it turned out really cute. It was really easy to do. And I had bought those coffee stirrers, and I don't really like them that much for coffee stirrers, but when I also had the other motive that they'd probably be a cool craft supply, and I think they are, so I'm definitely putting these in my crafting stash. I do the same thing here for a tire for the other side. And then now it's time to put our legs on our flower cart. I'm just going to attach them with hot glue. I just made sure to use my Gorilla Glue hot glue, let that set up. If you want it to be a little stronger, you could use wood glue if you wanted, but I was trying to get my flower cart made, so I used hot glue and it seems strong enough. I did put extra hot glue on the inside there where you're not really going to be able to see it to reinforce it a little bit. And then these are the shorter legs. These are the ones I cut a little bit shorter for the wheels, and I glued those on the 4 corners. So I'm almost building like a table at this point. Now, if you wanted to put a shelf down here, like some flower carts have shelves down there, you totally could, and it might actually reinforce your project a little bit as far as the legs go. I'm not going to put a shelf down there though. I'm just going to go ahead and attach my tires. I was trying to figure out how to do this in a way that would level it out. So I'm using just an extra piece of wood just for a straight line here to try to figure out exactly where I want my tire to be. And I just glued my little DIY wheel to the little wood. I'm going to reinforce it with a little bit more hot glue here on the back. And then I'm going to glue the other one on the other side where everything will hopefully lay level. This is what it looks like so far. I think it's really coming along. It's starting to look like a flower cart, right? I got this idea by seeing the large ones that they sell, like the real life ones on Wayfair. And I was like, oh, yeah, I want to make a miniature flower cart. I think that'd be really cool. So this is another piece of that easel kit. And I'm going to cut down 2 pieces to be the sides of my sign here. Like a lot of flower carts, there's a couple different styles. They can come up and have like a roof. They can come up and have a roof with a shelf up there, or they can just come up and have a sign. So I'm going to make mine have a sign. So I cut these down the same size, and I'm just gluing them on the inside of my wood tray there, one on each side, straight across from each other. And then another piece of that same easel kit for the top beam. And using this in combination with the miter scissors, huge fan for crafting. It made this really easy without having to go back and forth to my saw all the time. So I just attached that with hot glue there. And this is going to be my sign holder. So this is what my flower cart looks like so far. I did think it needed some handles to push it around. So kind of like wheelbarrow handles, right? Like you're just going to need little handles here. And so again, I'm using that same wood, and I'm going to cut 2 small handles here. And I really kind of like the square of this wood from the easel kit compared to like the wood dowels from the Dollar Tree, because square can really give you a different look on projects like this. I am going to attach that with hot glue to my top popsicle stick there. And my biggest challenge with this project was like letting my glue set up because I want everything to be as strong as possible. For the sign, you just need something wood. I'm going to use a Dollar Tree wood ruler. I think it makes a great sign. Nice and big and strong. You could also use a popsicle stick as well, but I kind of wanted the thicker wood. If you had like a paint stirrer, that would be pretty equivalent. I just cut mine down to size there on the saw to make a little sign. And then I'm going to spell out the word flowers. I'm going to use the galvanized metal letters from the Dollar Tree. Be careful when you buy these. You only get about half the alphabet, I guess, there. And I haven't been able to find the wood ones lately, but these are the perfect size for this scale project. So I'm going to spell out the word flowers. I went back and forth whether I was going to leave these galvanized metal or paint them. At first, I left them galvanized metal, so you'll get to see that, but I do go back and distress them with white just to make it a little bit easier to read. My house doesn't have the best lighting, so sometimes the metal's a little kind of hard to read, especially like on a stained wood. I just use as little hot glue as possible when putting these on so I don't get a lot of that seeping out, and they fit perfectly on this size project. So there's our little flower sign. As you can see, I'm attaching everything before I stain it or paint it or anything like that. It's just going to make the wood to wood hot gluing stronger. Then to stain it, I wanted my stain to be a lighter wood stain, and so I mixed some antique wax by Waverly with water to make a wash. This is what caused problems with my popsicle sticks. I think it was so watery that it bowed them a tiny bit. It's not super noticeable, and it actually makes it look more rustic because I am going to distress it and make it look rustic anyway. But keep that in mind if you're going to be using like a watery wash like I am. Sometimes on a project like this where there's so many different things to paint or stain, I find a wash is easier because as you can see, it just kind of soaks it in. You don't have to get it on there just perfectly or anything like that. But I went over everything, all the legs, the wheels, the bottom of the tray, and the sides of our sign. And I really love this project. I've created so many different things with wood, miniature projects like this. And I'm always looking for a challenge or a new idea of something to make. And I just think this turned out so fun. So I got everything stained, and now we can fill it up with flowers. I don't have a lot of room, so what I'm going to do is take the floral foam from the Dollar Tree, just cut it in half. So I have one piece that's pretty thin, and then trim that down to size as well, and just lay that right in there. I'm also going to glue that in place so that all the flowers kind of stay put and our little flower stand. To cover up the foam so you don't really see that, I just add some of the reindeer moss from the Dollar Tree into the tray. Not too much, but just a good layer, and this is what it looks like so far. For the flowers, I tried to choose smaller ones, so I have these in the white and the pink, and they come in little bunches, so I thought that would be perfect for flower sales, like a little bouquet. So I just pulled those off and put those down into the floral foam. And I was going with pink, whites, and purples on this one. So I also had them in the soft pink color, just kind of scattering those around, kind of random. And then the baby's breath from the Dollar Tree always works well because these are little tiny flowers. These you have to cut, and I found them in like pink and white. And I am also going to be adding some of this like summer filler. They have like these pink berries. I thought that would be just a fun little touch in there to make some of the flowers look a little bit more wild and add some more greenery in there as well. So first I did the berries, but I like the ferns and the greenery too. So I thought that would make it look a little bit more exotic with our flowers. And so I just cut those all apart and added those to the floral foam as well. And then I also have some of the lavender from the Dollar Tree to add a couple touches of purple. I thought that would be cute. So I just cut those with my wire cutter and add those as well. I want our flower cart to be really full with spring flowers. And this is such a fun idea. A little bit different take on a planter or a tier tray or something you would have sitting around. I think that's enough. I don't think I even need the white baby's breath. It is pretty full. So this is what it looks like so far with the silver letters and the stained wood, the lightly stained wood. But I am going to distress it. I do that with some white acrylic and a makeup sponge, and I'm just going to drag that across my metal letters to paint them in a distressed fashion just because I thought it would make it a little bit easier to read, but I kind of liked the distressed look. I wanted this to look like an old flower cart. So I actually distressed all over, just using that makeup sponge, a baby wipe to blend off any of the excess. But this step is totally optional, whatever your preference is for finish. I was going for a very rustic and old looking flower cart, and I think it did add a lot of character to this project and made it look not so brand new. And this is how it turned out, our little flower cart. I think it is adorable. Let me give you a closer look of our little flower cart. So I used one easel kit, one wood tray, the wood rings, and some popsicle sticks, and a wood ruler, I guess, for the wood. I think that's all. Oh, yeah, the coffee stirrers as well. Isn't that fun? I love it. Hey guys, if you're enjoying today's video, be sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, the next DIYs are going to be pretty easy. Check out these ceramic tiles that I found at the Crafter Square. They already have the cork on them. They're perfect coasters. I found them in square and circle shapes, and I thought these were great for crafting because they're blank. Isn't that cool? They're just like the ones that you find in the kitchen section, which you can use as well. We're going to be using cardstock and two free printables that I designed for these two coasters. And this is what they are. I designed a watercolor of a spring market and like a little spring bridge over a stream. I thought these look really well together and would be great spring coasters. I always love having seasonal coasters. So I printed mine out on cardstock, and I will include a link to the free printable for both of these. I sized them 4 inches by 4 inches, and it ended up being the perfect size. I sketched it out the first time, but it was not necessary and kind of got in the way. So if you print them out 100%, you should be able to get the perfect size for this. There's our little flower market and our flowers around a bridge. I think these images are so pretty. And so, yeah, definitely I will include a link to these. I think they would work for the circular coasters as well, if that's all that you can find or if that's what you prefer. And then I put a coat of Mod Podge on my coaster. Again, if you're just reusing the ones from the kitchen aisle, I think they're the same size. You would totally be able to get away with it if you print out on cardstock because you're not going to be able to see through this. I use Mod Podge on both and lay my paper right on top. The reason I print on cardstock is it doesn't wrinkle when you Mod Podge. You can start the drying process, which is what I did, but you really don't have to wait, and I love that. And I think it makes it more durable. I went over the top of it with more Mod Podge, and I'm just using a stencil dauber sponge from the Dollar Tree. It gives it this really great texture, and I don't get any brush strokes. Once I got that on there and dried, I just sanded the edges to make sure I didn't have any paper coming over the edges, especially the corners on these are slightly rounded, so that was very helpful for that part. And so when I continued to seal these, because I want them to be sealed really well because they are coasters, they're going to get wet, I don't have to worry about any of the paper coming over the sides. And I go over them, I think I went over them 3 times with the regular Mod Podge. And then I went over them with the dishwasher safe Mod Podge. I actually found this at Dollar Tree and it makes them dishwasher safe, so waterproof. So I thought that would be even better for the top coat. And again, using the stencil dauber, you can kind of see that really cool texture and going together with the watercolor theme of these two spring coaster DIYs were just so much fun to make and so easy. So be sure to look out for these little coaster. They're not really called coaster kits. These little coaster kits at the Crafter Square at Dollar Tree. But again, you could totally recreate with the ones from the kitchen section. I have done that before. But how fun is it to have a spring coaster or two? I really only need 2 for my like coffee table area, but I love how they turned out and I hope that you do too. For the next DIY, I wanted to take one of the beach shovels and beach rakes from the Dollar Tree and see if we can make a beautiful spring shovel and rake wreath for my wall or my door. I think I'm going to use these on a door. And I just went ahead and unscrewed the handles. I think they've changed these slightly because they used to have handles on them in the past, and these don't. They also used to not be made out of wood. These are made out of wood, which is fun if you wanted to paint or stand them. I'm going to do something a little bit different, but I definitely need to get rid of the sticky tag on it. And probably heat's the best thing on that because it is really on there. I wanted to make sure I got rid of all of that because I want to decoupage those and make those really pretty. As for the shovel and the rake, I want them to be pastel colors, and I'm really feeling pink and purple together for spring this year. So I'm going to mix like a pink parfait with some white to give me a pastel pink. And I'm going to do the shovel in pink. Since it's already a hot pink color, making it light pink is really easy. I didn't have to go over it with any kind of a primer or anything like that. And I am using the combination of paintbrush to kind of some of the smaller areas and the sponge stencil daubers from the Dollar Tree. I love the texture it gets. I want them to look mottled. If you wanted to do this a little bit easier, you could get some pastel colored spray paint to spray paint these all in one coat. But I really did want that mottled appearance on these to make them look like they're made out of metal. I want them to look like painted metal almost. No rust or anything like that. I want these guys to be pretty. Now for the rake, it is orange, as you can see, and I want it to be lavender. So I thought that's going to be a harder shift in color. So the first thing I did was go over everything with white first, just kind of to act as a primer. And you are going to have to do multiple coats on these to cover up that bright colors and the plastic on there, and to make sure, that it's really stuck on there well. But I'm doing the fronts and the backs just because you'll be able to kind of see them from the sides a little bit, and you want to make sure everything is the same color. I want to put these together crisscross to hang together for a wall hanging or a door wreath for spring. And I've seen so many people do these with like making them look like metal or rust, or doing them for fall, but I've never really seen a bright pastel spring one done before. That's really pretty. So that's what I was going for with this one. I was thinking pink and purple flowers, garden, that kind of vibe. And so I just go over them again here with another coat of the soft pink on my pink one, and that one should be good. And then now I can go over my rake with the lavender. I just mixed a lighter purple color together with white because I was really going for pastels. I have an inspiration piece for this, which is some tissue paper that I got at the Dollar Tree that has pink and purple flowers all over too. So that was kind of my inspiration piece behind all of the colors. I want all the colors to be really soft on this project. So I think that looks really good. I definitely set those aside to make sure that the paint dried. I don't want any of those bright colors coming back through. And you could probably go in there and Mod Podge them or use a spray sealer on there if you're worried about hanging them outdoors, and if you're worried about the paint on them. This is the tissue paper that I'm going to use. Isn't this so pretty? This is just from like the party aisle at the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to cover the handles with these pink and purple flowers. I thought this would be perfect. So it's not going to take very much. It's definitely long enough for the wood handle. And one thing to note, they've made these a little larger this year. I had one of these from last year, and I went to buy the rake this year, and it was way bigger, so I had to go back and buy another shovel. And I am just going to coat the edges of our handle with Mod Podge all over. And you have to work in very thin coats with your Mod Podge. The decoupage with the tissue paper can be challenging. It's so thin. I just went ahead and laid mine on there and tried to grip it, and trying to use my dry fingers. I probably should have used some plastic wrap, wadded up into a ball. I just used a paper towel, and I did rip it slightly, but it's going to be on the back, so I think that it's okay. I'll be able to disguise that, but be very careful with this process. I was trying to get it smooth and try to get out any excess wrinkles. Look how pretty that is. I think it looks so vintage and fun for spring. Now, one end doesn't really matter what it's going to look like because it's going to be inside the shovel and the rake. The other one, I just trimmed it a little shorter, and I decoupaged that down as well. It's so thin, it's easy to layer that there at the end. And we have one of our handles done. I'm going to do them both in this beautiful tissue paper. I love it. I love how the colors go together with how I painted the shovel and the rake. So same thing here for the other one. I don't want to use too much of the fabric, just enough. I'm going to go ahead and cut out another piece here and decoupage this one as well. Same steps. And I just have a little bit too much excess material, and then I cover the whole thing, very thin coat of Mod Podge, and then roll it on. If you find that you tear it, you're going to have plenty of tissue paper. You can always redo it. When I've had that happen, if you take it to the sink quickly and you can just wash it off literally, sometimes you have to do that because use decoupage definitely can be tricky when you're working with a thin material like this. But I think that looks pretty good. We can go ahead and put these together. I'm going to slide the handles in, making sure my seam and my decoupage is on the back. And then I saved the screws from before. I don't really know where the holes are on the wood at this point, but the wood is soft enough that you can just screw right into it. You don't really have to drill a hole or anything like that. And I'm going to do that with both of them. Don't they look so vintage spring garden now compared to how they looked before for the beach theme? I think it's really fun. I'm going to crisscross them like this, and I want that to be strong. So the first thing I do is go in with a zip tie. I thought that would be a strong foundation, and you're not going to be able to see it once we start decorating this little spring wreath, where the shovel and the rake are going to be hanging down below. So I zip tie it, cut off the excess material. I also am going to want a hanger right about there. So I take some twine and I feed that through there as well. And I can just tie that into a simple loop. I thought this would be a little bit challenging to hang, but it was actually pretty easy. I just knotted that and I attached that there on the zip tie that I used to hold them together. I'm also going to use some twine to tie them together. So I zip tied them. I'm also going to use twine and I just wrap that around and tie. And I'm just doing that to make this seam stronger. I don't want them falling apart and I want them to stay in position. And so I just did that 4 or 5 times and knotted it. For the ribbon, I didn't want anything too bold or crazy, so I'm going to use some of the burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree. The burlap always goes well with a garden theme, and I think it'll go great with these soft pastel colors. I just cut off a piece and wrapped that around where I put the zip tie and the twine, covering all of that up. At first, I did dovetail the edges, but this burlap ribbon does like to fray a little bit. So I did go back and straighten these up a little bit because I didn't like the fact that it was fraying. And then we're going to do a faux bow, really easy. I take another zip tie and I go underneath our twine like that. And then I'm going to cut out 3 loops. I'm not going to do like the twist and fold or anything like that, just 3 loops all the same size. That way I can have them kind of jutting out in every direction independently. It's going to make it easier to mold and put together. When I make a loop, I just slightly overlap the end-to-end burlap. And then I just put them together, the first 2 like an X, and the next one kind of going the other direction like that, where they're all 3 stacked on top of each other. I just sit that on top of the ribbon and use that zip tie that I had put down there to secure them all together. The zip tie is not real noticeable when you go to shape your burlap ribbon. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fluff up my little bow here. And I think that's going to be perfect. Now I want to hang a bag of seeds down from my wreath form. So I'm going to use some of these treat sacks from the Dollar Tree. These are the burlap bags. This one has a polka dot on it, which is kind of cute. I just removed the tag there from it, and I was trying to decide if I wanted to use the polka dot side. I want you to be able to read it. I want to spell out the word seeds on it, so I decided just to use the plain burlap back for mine. I'm going to use these stampers that I got at Dollar General with some Dollar Tree ink pads, and we're just going to stamp out seeds on this. And I think I might need a new ink pad because either that or this material didn't really want to take it too much because it wasn't real obvious when I was stamping on these, but I'll show you how I go about fixing it. But I love these little stampers that I got at Dollar General. I've used them for crafting a lot. They are great for rustic projects like this. To fix it, I took a black Sharpie and I just started dotting around everywhere where it's stamped because that's going to look like black ink, right? And I did that twice. I went over them twice and now it's just a little bit easier to read. I also want it to look like a dirty bag of seeds. So I want it to look full. I use a little bit of polyfill from the Dollar Tree to start stuffing it. And I was trying to decide how to make it look dirty. I know you can do this with coffee grounds pretty easily, just working that in the burlap. But I didn't really want to go find any coffee, so I wanted to see if I could do it with just some brown paint. So I used one of those chunky brushes from the Dollar Tree, a little bit of this like chocolate brown paint, and just kind of went all over. If I have an area that got maybe a little bit too much, I went over it with a baby wipe and tried to blend that into the burlap. And I think I definitely did get the dirty burlap seed bag look without having to use the coffee, but you could use that too. I've done that before. It works really well. I added a little bit more polyfill, and then I wanted to look like the seeds are actually sprouting out of the bag. So to do that, I got some greenery from the Dollar Tree, and I just went ahead and added that to the bag, cinching it here at the top. Isn't that fun? I thought this would be fun because I can hang this down from the bow, something that's going to kind of hang down in front of the shovel and the rake, and just add another feature to this project. Now, the little handles on there were not quite long enough to be able to just wrap it around the bow like that. So what I'm going to do is just tie that off and use some extra twine to tie that to make sure it hangs down right where I want it to. So I take some more twine and I'm just going to wrap this around our little seed bundle here, tying that off. Now that greenery that I used there is pretty bright. You're going to see me change it here in a minute just because I thought it's fun for spring that it's a bright green, but I thought it was a little too bright considering all the pastel colors that I used on this project. But I switched it out for something really similar. I just tied that around my big bow here at the top where it will hang down in front. And then I cut my dovetails off here because I noticed they were slightly fraying a bit. These are the flowers that I'm going to use from the Dollar Tree. I think they're so pretty. I think they're the camellia flowers, and they are these soft pinks and whites. I thought the colors were perfect, and the kind of flower was perfect. So I just take those off and start hot gluing those all around the bow. Kind of anywhere where there was an opening in the bow that needed something, I just added a flower to that. But I'm trying not to take away from the hanging seeds down there too much as well, but I definitely wanted some florals. I also glued the back of my bag here just to make it a little bit skinnier in the back so you can't see the polka dots on my bag there because it looks a little bit different. And another flower. This is the greenery that I was talking about. I did have another greenery from the Dollar Tree that was slightly a softer green. And once I was finished, my personal preference was just to switch that out. So that's what I did. It's just like a little eucalyptus, I guess, and eucalyptus stem. And I just replaced that. And I like the colors on that one better with my soft pinks and my soft purples. Let me show you how my little rake and shovel wreath turned out. I've always wanted to make one of these and I just love it. It just screams spring. I love all the flowers. Isn't this so cute? I think this will look great. I think I'm going to hang it on my garage door because I already have a great spring wreath for my front door and my back door. So I think it would be a great wall hanging as well, though, too. But I think it was really fun. Okay, the next project, I wanted to challenge myself to see if I can make a porch swing plant holder. So I picked up 3 of the little pallet signs from the Dollar Tree and 2 of the pallet signs like this, right? I thought those could be the back of my porch swing, and the little pallets that are a little thicker there, those little square ones, can be the seat of my porch swing. And I do want it to recline as well. So I'm going to do a couple things to it to give it a little bit more character. One thing is I want my boards to be spaced out evenly like this. And I do need to connect them together. So I'm going to do that with a jenga block from the Dollar Tree. I spaced them out so the wood panels are separate like they are all the way across. That's just going to make it look, I think, a little bit better. And for the top, instead of using a Jenga block, I actually used a Dollar Tree popsicle stick to glue that part together. And the reason why is because I want the back to be slanted back, like kind of in a reclining position. I think that's going to give it more character. And so I want the bottom to be kicked out from the wall a little bit. Now for the seat, I just went ahead and glued them end to end, making sure all my lines are kind of going the same direction. I think that's going to look better. To reinforce this one, I'm going to use a popsicle stick here on the back as well. And I think this is just going to make it stronger because it's going to be holding some ceramic pots from the Dollar Tree. I want it to be really strong. I just used hot glue there to attach that, and then this is thick. I can also use my staple gun to reinforce that as well. So we have the back panel and we have the seat to our porch swing. And now it's a challenge of trying to put it all together. I'm going to use one of the wood dowels from the Dollar Tree and glue that here to the back. This is going to allow me to be able to attach it in a reclining position, and it actually worked out pretty well. I made sure to reinforce that with some more hot glue. And then I can sit this on there like this where it can slightly sit back, but that the seat will be level, which will hold my flower pots. I did notice that I needed a couple more of the Jenga blocks, so I loaded up 2 more to kick this out from the wall so that it will go back like that in the reclining position, which is exactly what I want. And now it's just a matter of putting this together. I was trying to decide which position would be the best to attach this, and I think laying down the back like this works the best, and adding hot glue to the wood dowel. And that's just gonna act as a spacer there. It's gonna help me attach the 2 pieces together. If you were gonna go straight up with your back, it would be easier because you wouldn't have to worry about the reclining. But I think it did give it more character to make the back reclining, make it look relaxing like that. I just attached mine with hot glue, and this is what we have so far for a little porch swing. Those 3 Jenga blocks kind of jutting out there on the back, pushing it away from the wall. Then I take my 3rd piece and I just cut off the sides with my saw. You could use just Jenga blocks if you don't have access to a saw to build up the little armrest for your porch swing. But I thought these are the perfect size because they kind of coordinate with what I already used for the seats. But I am going to use wood Jenga blocks to put it together. So I just cut off the end parts. I flipped it over, and then I'm going to attach one of the wood Jenga blocks on each side to make little legs so it looks like this. They kind of stick out a tiny bit, but it's not real noticeable. And then I can attach that to this part of the seat, and it's going to make the perfect little armrest for a porch swing. And it works well with the reclining back too, because I don't have to worry about attaching it to that part. I attached it just like that. That's what it looks like so far. And I love creating little projects like this. I've done like picnic tables and different things. I've done a porch swing before with the easel kits, but this is a different design. I do love how it turned out. I am going to do the same thing here on the other side. I just glued 2 Jenga blocks on to that wood piece and glued that to my swing. These are the pots we're going to be putting on it. These are like I guess the larger of the 2 terracotta plants from the Dollar Tree, and they fit on here perfectly. If you're worried that they might fall off, you could always use like a wood ruler here in the front and make a little front to your shelf. But I'm going to hot glue mine down, so I didn't do that. I didn't want to have to add that if I didn't need to. But that is an option for you. Now to hang it, I did think about using the wire chains from the Dollar Tree, but they're a little bit too large scale for this project. So I'm just going to use twine, and it actually worked perfectly. I tie it to that bottom rung of that like little pallet coaster, come up like that, and then I want it to come down in the front like that. So I wanted to see how long I need it to be. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut a second piece of twine for the other side, and so I went ahead and did that too. So I'm going to do the same thing. I feed it around this bottom section, tying that off just like that, where it can come up and be a hanger for our porch swing. And I think the twine looks good too. I think it kind of matches the vibe of it. I decided not to paint my porch swing or stain it. I'm going to leave it raw wood like this. I think it will hold up better outside. We will see, but you could always paint or stain yours. I did the same thing here on the other side, just tying the twine. This time I had to make sure that I'm going to tie it where it's level. So I did have to test it before I knotted my last string to see about exactly where I need it to be. I'm going to tighten this a little bit more and then just double knotting the twine. And now I have 2 hangers that I think are going to work well if I connect those together to hold our little porch swing plant hanger. I do want to make sure they stay in place, so I did add a little hot glue onto the twine just so they won't slide around front to back. And it's a great hanger. It's pretty hidden here on the bottom of the project, and it seems to work perfectly. Just like this, I go around the little arm holders and put it together like that, where with the kickback on the wall, it just hangs perfectly. And I have a whole bunch of these metal rings. These come with the wood shelf kits from the Dollar Tree, and I never use them, but I saved them in case I ever needed them. Worked perfectly for this. I just used some pliers to open that up, and I strung my 2 twine together with that ring, and that serves as a hanger too. For the flower pots, I told you I was just going to attach mine with hot glue to make sure they stay on the shelf. I thought that would be the most durable way to do that. You could use a stronger glue if you're going to be using yours outside a lot too. And then I wanted to stick with the pink and purple flower theme, and I wanted to be able to switch it out with different flowers too. So to fill it up, I want it to be lightweight since it's a hanging plant holder. I just used some of the floral moss from the Dollar Tree. And then I found these great daisies from the Dollar Tree in pinks and purples with yellow centers. I think they are so bright and fun for spring. And I'm gonna have enough room for about 3 in each one of my little mini flower pots here. These do like to bend a little bit. A pro tip for that is to use your heat gun or a blow dryer. It makes them look so much better and fluffed out, as you can see there. And I'm gonna do that with my pink ones as well. My favorite thing about this project is I can just swap out the flowers. I could use this for any season. And Dollar Tree always has great florals, so looking forward to using this one. I think I'm gonna actually put this out in my Florida room, and I think it's so fun. It definitely goes with the vibe out there, and I love the spring colors. I did one pot of the lavender and one pot of the pink flowers, and let me show you how my little porch swing plant holder turned out. It's just like I envisioned. I was really happy with this project. It did require a little bit of thinking to be able to get that reclining to work and to make a stable piece. But using those Jenga blocks pushes that part of it out from the wall and keeps that reclining position while my chair, the seat, remains level to hold my flower pots. Isn't that fun? I love it. For the next DIY, I'm going to take one of these 11 by 14 wood photo frames from the Dollar Tree. I was really excited to find these at my Dollar Tree the other day. This is a really nice large frame for $1.25. I'm not going to need the glass or anything like that. I just want the wood frame. It could have been a little bit sturdier. As you can see, it's pretty thin, but I liked the size of it. I saw this great project on Pinterest. Let me find out who did the original DIY. It looks like it was done by the Shabby Tree. I think that's a crafting blog, but it is a basket wreath using a frame and rope. So I wanted to see if I could make a Dollar Tree version. I believed they used a strong rope and a 16 by 20 canvas or something like that for theirs. But I thought I would give it a go with one of the Dollar Tree wood frames. The size is really big, so I think this will work. I'm going to start right here and attach it with some hot glue and twine. And I did put mine together a little different than she did, but pretty similar. I think after making my project and looking at their blog, it looks like they started at the very bottom. I started on the handle first. So I started about halfway up. I just attached it to the back with some hot glue and staples just to reinforce that. And I'm simply wrapping this around. I thought the thinner wood frame would be perfect for this because I could have a thinner handle for my basket wreath and it wouldn't take quite as much rope for this project. Getting to the corners was a little bit tricky. And so what I did was I kind of started and then going in the reverse direction, trying to overlap the corners a little bit. And that seemed to work because this part was a little bit tricky to deal with to try to cover that on that tight corner. So I kept kind of working in a reverse direction until I filled up the entire corner. And since that kind of works out like that, I'm just going to cut it and attach it here in the corner and then just start again. I just found that was the easiest way to do the corner on it. It was, again, a little bit challenging when you got to that part. But I think I was able to do a pretty good job. So basically, the top of the frame is going to be the handle for the basket, for a basket wreath. And then the bottom is going to be all rope to hold our flowers. And this held so many spring florals. I love it. This is a great wreath for your door. I just started my next package of rope. So this is package number 2. I did not count these, so we'll have to count as we go along here. And I'm going to keep wrapping this on the top of the handle. This is the thinner rope from the Dollar Tree. They don't have the measurements on them anymore, which is kind of weird because that's how I always kind of pulled them apart. I noticed that the coasters that I crafted with too didn't have measurements either. So I'm like, why are we not telling people measurements anymore, Dollar Tree? Come on. When I got to the corner, I'm going to do the same thing where I kind of push it out and then start reverse coming back towards the corner, if that makes any sense, because that seemed to work pretty well on the other corner until I have enough rope to completely cover that. And again, just going to have some scrap material here. It just seemed to work out better for me that way. attaching my ends with hot glue. And now we're on to package number 3 of this rope. And we've almost got the handle completely covered. I just started with hot glue and a staple just because I thought that would make it a little bit stronger. You could probably get away with just hot glue. And I'm going to go down until I am about halfway across from where I started. Then I'm going to go all the way across. And I did a staple there for a little bit of stability. And then you're going to simply start wrapping your frame like this. I wanted to make sure that all of my seams were on the back so I didn't have any ugly starts and stops to the rope on the front of my basket wreath. And so I stopped right there at the side, and then I'll start a new piece. If I were to make this basket wreath project again, I would probably add burlap for this bottom part first, wrap the entire thing in burlap, and then do the rope over the top. I didn't do that because I thought it would be excess craft material and I didn't really want to waste that. But you know what? It would have been easier for this part, kind of gluing the ropes together so you don't have like holes in between them. I noticed there was some gapping happening and I didn't want that to happen between the ropes. I didn't want you to be able to see through it. And I'm still counting. This is package number 5. Since this is such a large basket wreath, I knew it was going to take a lot of rope. So I just made sure that I had a lot in my stash that I could use to make sure it's all done with the same kind of rope. When I start and stop on the bottom, I'm able to just glue that to each other. And again, trying to keep that as tight as I can. Going in here with package number 6. As you can see, this is making a big pocket here where you're going to be able to add all your florals down in there. And it looks like a basket, right? A basket with a handle. So super cute. I think this would be really fun for Easter as well. So this is package number 7. I might be pulling it a little too tight. As you can see, it does bow in a little bit. The Dollar Tree frame is not super strong, but I kind of liked the effect, so I kind of kept going with it. And as you can see, when you get down here to the bottom, it's just going to take a lot of rope because you're going all the way around. This is package number 8, and I'm coming down here to the very bottom seam. I do want to make sure that I cover up all of the rope. So it looks like 9 packages of rope. So that will be handy if you're going to make yours with the same exact size wood frame from the Dollar Tree. And I do want to kind of overlap down here and form a bottom, basically covering up all of the wood from the frame, but you still have that great structure. In my inspiration piece, it looked like they used a canvas, so it was probably a stronger wood, but I think this worked really well for a Dollar Tree version. Again, I didn't really like the openings in between them, so I tried to glue them together. Anywhere I noticed a big gap with a little bit of hot glue, but that just took a little bit of extra work. I think if I would have put burlap down first and wrapped that part of the basket wreath first, I could have just glued down to the burlap and the burlap would have held it together, but it would also kind of hide the gaps in between the rope. And then I went over everything with my lighter to burn off any of the fuzzies. As you can see, it is a large basket wreath, and I think it looks really good. I love using Dollar Tree rope for projects. I think the brown rope is a great like neutral color. You could really use this for any season. And then to fill it up, I'm going to use some Spanish moss. I've been having trouble finding this at my Dollar Tree lately, so I had to get some at Walmart. But I thought that would be a great filler. It's going to be lightweight. It's going to be something that's going to be decorative, but hold all of my flowers and fill this pocket up with that Spanish moss, just like that. For the flowers, I wanted this to be overflowing with spring flowers. So I'm going to do a combination of pinks and purples. I love these flowers from the Dollar Tree. They're like a droopy flower, but they're only like partially droopy. I wanted mine to be like completely hanging flowers to go down the front part of my basket wreath. And so I got a couple packages of these. I just cut them into individual pieces. And let me show you how I made them a little bit droopier. I've worked with these before, so I know they kind of like to droop down, but they stick out. I wanted mine to go straight down and not stick out from the wreath. And so what I did is I took some wire. This is just some hardware wire from the Dollar Tree. You could also use some floral wire for this. And I just bent it. So it's still on the wire that I can put down inside the basket wreath to hold it. But then I just wired it where it is bent here at the top, if that makes sense. And if I have a piece long enough, I will just continue that on to the next one. I want these to go all the way across. And I'm just gonna scatter these out. I want like all of my pink flowers. I got lots of different kinds to be coming out at the top of the basket underneath the handle. But I thought it'd be really pretty if all these purple ones just kind of drooped down. So again, just doing the wire just to bend those. And that worked perfectly to give the look that I was looking for. Because again, they droop, but they just kind of droop out. They're strong enough not to go down. And so I did that all the way across with those two bundles. I've used these, they come in pink and purple. I've used them for some of my ladder plant stands, and they looked so pretty drooping over the sides of those as well. I love the pinks and purples this year. So again, I just kind of wire them to each other, bend them. I think that looks really good and nothing permanent. So I'll be able to remove those and change those out with other flowers. For the flowers, I chose like coordinating colors. So camellia, dahlia, I think we got even some roses here. A lot of them are really similar colors, and I thought we could make these work. They're a nice size flower too. So this one I kind of had just a scrap one flower left, and I'm going to use that one. This one, I want this part of the flowers to be really tall, so I'm just going to leave this one attached to the stem itself. So it'll be nice and tall, fitting down into our basket, just kind of bending them a little bit so they'll face towards the front a little bit. And I did have to trim it down just a little bit because it was a little bit too tall, and just put that down into my Spanish moss into my little basket wreath. And again, these look really similar, but like this is a different one. I don't know, maybe they're just creative with their names for the flowers, but I cut these into individual pieces so they would be a little bit shorter. But as you can see, they have that same pink, white, and yellow color scheme. And then this one does too, but this one has like a little bit more of the pink and the coral in it. And I wanted all different kinds of pink flowers to all coordinate together, but kind of contrast a little bit against the purple. I kind of like having the pink and the purple mixed together. And I'm sure you could get really creative. The Dollar Tree florals this year for spring are the prettiest that I've ever seen. I keep complimenting them. It's the only compliment they're getting since I don't have any shore living this year. And I know they're tired of hearing me complain. But I finish it off with these camellias. These are some of my favorites. They're so pretty. Just scattering those around, making it look really random and overflowing with flowers for spring. This is how it turned out. You can hang it like on a wreath hanger or on the wall. The rope will just hang on a nail like that without even having to make a hanger or anything like that. And here it is, our rope basket wreath. So thank you to the Shabby Tree for the inspiration piece. I love trying to recreate it with items from the Dollar Tree. I think it turned out really pretty and was such a great idea. Now for the next spring DIY, I'm going to use one of the Dollar Tree wood frames and one of their burlap canvases. I love these burlap canvases. I've been having trouble finding them lately at my Dollar Trees. Have you guys been finding them in your stores? They're so much better than the regular canvases. I want them to have them all the time. But I guess you could always recreate yours with a canvas and some burlap if you can find some burlap from the Dollar Tree. And I just want the wood frame. The wood frame is the strongest frame from the Dollar Tree that I work with. So it works great when you're adding a canvas to it because the corners are not going to gap like the plastic ones did. I just removed the glass, all the staples, added a little hot glue on the inside of the frame here, and just laid my burlap canvas right inside. I'm going to leave the back open like that. I can always use that canvas to do the hanging part without having a hanger on there. I want to create some burlap flowers on here using my own DIY burlap flowers and also some of the Dollar Tree ones. For the vase, I found these great little soap bags from the Dollar Tree. These were the bathroom section, and I really bought them for the netted one on the left there because I think that's going to make a perfect fishing net for coastal crafting. But I thought this back soap holder would make a perfect little vase for my burlap flowers. So I just tied that there at the top. I guess you're supposed to put like a bar of soap in there. And I'm going to attach it here to my burlap canvas. I love the contrast of the ivory and the burlap together. I think it looks really cute and very kind of rustic spring with the burlap flower idea. I just attached it, leaving the bag open, but gluing the back of the bag to the burlap canvas like that. Trying to go around the edges too so it doesn't gap out too much. And then I am going to use a little polyfill just to give it a little bit more volume. And you can kind of see through the holes a little bit there too. So I think that's going to work well to just stuff it slightly. For the flowers, I'm going to DIY some, and I wanted to start simple. I've never made burlap flowers before. I know there's a million different patterns, but we're going to start easy because it's the first time I made burlap flowers. So I designed just this printable flower, and I will include a link to this if you want to recreate these same burlap flowers. And I just printed that out on regular paper. For the burlap, I'm going to use the burlap bags from the Dollar Tree. These are usually in my crafter square at my store, but they are great burlap for crafting because they're coated with plastic on the back. They're a faux burlap, they don't fray. Perfect for something like this. So I just used my little flower stencil and a Sharpie, sketched that out on the plastic backing of my burlap bag. Probably have to change the color. I was trying not to do anything too noticeable, but I really couldn't see that mint green. So I'm going to do it with like a brown Sharpie. And I think I'm going to DIY about 5 of them. I'm going to combine them with the burlap flowers from the Dollar Tree, which come in so many different shapes and sizes. They're usually burlap or ivory. And so the ones I'm going to DIY here, I'm going to paint the burlap. So there'll be some fun spring colors. I sketched out 5 on the back here, and this stuff cuts so easily, as you can see, and look, no fraying at all. I also thought the plastic would be easier to melt a little bit if I wanted them to warp a little bit, give me a little bit of texture since I'm not doing any of the fancy burlap flower designs. I did look to see how you make burlap flowers, and I was a little overwhelmed with how many different ways there are to make them. And I really don't like sewing, so I was trying not to do a sewing version. So we're just going to keep it really easy with a 5-leaf flower. And again, I will include the printable if you want to use that as a template as well. I just cut them all down. I thought that I could paint them like 2 different colors. And since we're doing a lot of pink and purple today, I'm going to kind of stick with those colors. I'm using a sponge stencil dauber from the Dollar Tree. I use these things all the time. They're my favorite paintbrushes from the Dollar Tree nowadays. And I am going to go over 3 of them in pink and 2 of them in that like soft purple color. And I want to make sure that the sponge works great because I don't want to get too much paint in there to block the burlap look. I still want you to be able to tell that they are made out of burlap. And 1 coat, I think, is all I need on that. Covered the burlap brown very well. And I just gave them a quick dry. And I did notice they did want to warp a little bit with heat, which is good. They do flatten out a little bit more than I would like, though. But for the center, I'm going to use twine. And I just did a circle of hot glue in the center of my flower. And I tried both ways, working from the outside in and the inside out with the center of my flowers. I think I liked working that way. Outside in seemed to work a little bit better to create the center of our flower. It's a fun rustic touch. Other ideas is you could use buttons if you like that look for the center of your flower, or like the little wood slices from the Dollar Tree that are circular. I think those would be cute as well. Or you could even take a button and cover it with burlap. It kind of looks like that's what they've done with the Dollar Tree flowers that I'm going to be using on this project as well. But I'm going to do that with all 5 of my flowers, just creating little twine centers. Very easy and so much fun. So I'm going to combine 5 of my own DIY burlap flowers with a couple of the Dollar Tree ones as well. And I do want them to have stems. I thought the wire jute from the Dollar Tree would be perfect for the stems. The only thing is, I hate cutting this stuff, but I found that if you add a little masking tape and use some wire cutters, you're much more likely to get a good cut without the twine coming off of the wire. That's kind of my pet peeve with this stuff. And I went ahead and cut 5 of these. Kind of forgot that I was doing more flowers, but I'm going to have to add a couple more to these in a minute when I add a few more flowers. I just removed the tape and then hot glued those onto the back of my flowers here. And as you can see, the more that I've added like heat to those flowers, they have curled up a little bit, but I noticed that when I would do that, they would curl up and then they would kind of flatten back out. Right now, I think I've melted the plastic a little bit because they do have a little bit of a curl, which I like because I think that adds more fun to the flower to make them warp a little bit like that. And we can start adding our little flowers into our little vase. that is made out of a soap bag. You never know where you're going to find crafting supplies from the Dollar Tree, that's for sure. So I add my pink and purple flowers kind of in a random pattern like that. I want this project to be really fun and really like 3D vibe. And I think it turned out really cute so far. I went ahead and added a little bit more of the polyfill to fill out my bag. And then I glued it shut. And then I was like, oh yeah, I was going to add Dollar Tree flowers to this as well. I don't know what I was thinking, but I wish I hadn't done that. But I filled it out right there with it. And again, hitting those flowers with a little bit more heat to try to make them curl a little bit was my strategy. I don't want them to curl too much, just a little bit. And then add my flowers. These are the flowers that I was talking about from the Dollar Tree. I have like 6 or 7 different kinds of these. I think that the ivory ones are going to look better because they're going to match like the bag that we used. So I'm going to add a couple of those, and it'll add a little variety with like a different kind of flower. So I think 2 of those. So I do have to make 2 more of the flower stems here with the wired jute, and then try my best to add these to the vase because I already sealed it up. I don't know what I was thinking. They also have the burlap leaves from the Dollar Tree sometimes as well, and I do have some of those. So I thought I would add a few of those to my flowers as well, just to brighten it up. But I don't think I have a lot of room for the leaves. That's something you could DIY really easily, though. It's just a simple leaf shape, especially if you were using like the faux burlap like we used for the flowers. I love that combination. These are the ones I'm going to use, the small ivory ones. Aren't these so cute? And again, I got all of those at the Crafter Square at the Dollar Tree. It looks like the flower ones were almost more of a fall theme, but I think they go well with these spring flowers. And then I am just going to add one to the left one to this one, and maybe one over here on the right, just kind of balance things out. I want it to be overflowing with flowers, kind of going over the sides of my burlap. But so many fun textures with this soap bag, the burlap behind it. I think it's so fun. And then I'm going to tie it all off with some twine. I just fed some twine around the rope bag and tied it here at the top. I'm just going to knot it to cinch it and then use that excess twine just to tie a simple little sweet bow that can hang down from the front. Such a sweet, whimsical spring DIY. I really love it. It really screams spring, especially with like the bright pink and purple flowers added to it. But I love the idea of little burlap flowers on a burlap canvas. And the wood frame is just very neutral and blends in well with this project. Isn't that so cute? I love how this turned out. I had a picture of this in my mind, but I wasn't really sure if I was going to be able to pull it off. Next time, I might try to challenge myself with some more difficult flowers because those definitely weren't. But I think they turned out really pretty. And how cool are those soap bags? I didn't know if I was going to be able to use that one as well as the ones with the mesh netting. The mesh netting ones I'm really excited to use for coastal crafting. I've really enjoyed making all of these spring DIYs for you this year on my channel. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please let me know which spring DIY was your favorite down in the comments below, or at least come say hi. I love reading your comments. Don't forget to check out my second little channel, Crafty Little Beach. I've been having some issues over there, but I'm trying to get it under control. And hopefully I'll be able to get it monetized soon. I've been posting over there for a year. Enjoy the final reveal.
Rusty red on her shoulder, I was cleaning her shoe when it clicked on the trot over in the bright morning dew. We brushed and we braided dandelions and chewed. It was a mutual arrangement we both saw into. Can she walk in the fire? Can she run in the rain? Can she make it up the mountainside? Can she make it down again? I have often wondered if she'll go and jump the fence. Will she keep a mutual arrangement, we both knew what to do. She had a star on her forehead that was easy to find. When I let down her bridle, the saw into her hazel eyes. We had a deep understanding, never had to use a bit. Was a mutual arrangement and an honest respect. But can she walk in the fire? Can she run in the rain? Can she make it up the mountainside? Can she make it down again? I have often wondered if she'll go and jump the fence. Will she keep on moving onward or stay in what could have been? Will she keep on moving onward or stay in what could have been? I just wanna go out and walk with you. Baby, you know I just like to talk with you. You don't have to tell me anything that's new. I just wanna go out and walk with you. I just wanna see your shadow next to mine, sailing over pavement with our two outlines. I like to see the shape you're in from time to time. I just wanna see your shadow next to mine. I just wanna see the same things you can see, understand the meaning on a new degree. Maybe that could happen when you're next to me. I just wanna see the same things you can see.
Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of today's video. I'd also like to give a huge thank you to all of my YouTube members for supporting my channel. Thank you to Melinda Elizabeth, Jamie Job, Susan Edmonds, Tracy Knight, Janae Farrington, Pamelia Wren, Donna Schreiner, I Am Mojo Jojo, Marin Christensen, Adrian Brolt, Debbie Middleton, Donna Tanner, Kim Rogers, Maria Cruz Pagan, Pal Puppy Life, and Renee Albanese. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. I really appreciate each and every one of you. If you would like to become a Crafty Beach Bum member, all you have to do is hit the join button next to today's video. I think you can do it on your computer or your phone. You're going to get early ad-free access to my content here on YouTube, a badge next to your name, and a shout out in every video. I'd also love to see what you've been crafting. Be sure to share your DIYs in our private Facebook group. I have it linked in the description of today's video. Be sure to join the crafting party over there, and especially if you've made one of my DIYs, I would love to see it. Would you like even more spring crafting inspiration? Be sure to check out one of these spring crafting videos right here. And until next time, happy crafting and enjoy spring.